our 4 factors that can limit us and stop us from fulfilling our purpose and achieve and succeed in life and be transformed could be ignorance, lack of understanding, lack of vision, unknown of our identity of who we are, our purpose, and our why. And this is the moment of the truth. And that is why Y.Y.C.I International Academic is organizing this masterclass on mindset for transforming relationship, marriage, and family. Because family is the leaders of, family contributes to the nation. And that is why we are here today. So we need to become a life learner. And everything in life requires hard work, dedication, commitment, sacrifice, investment, honesty, integrity, and gratitude. So when we are talking about relationship, all these factors need to be looked into, and we can use all these factors to build ourselves up and build our relationship and also be happy in life. However, curiosity will keep you thirsty for more. And no matter your level of education, you should never stop learning, because learning is living. And the more you learn, the more you grow your mindset, because mindset is everything. And without renewing mindset, there will be no transformation, there will be no progress, and also there will be no change. And Y.Y.C.I Mama said, and I quote, "A thirst for knowledge is something that can never be quenched and should be a lifelong quest." So discover what you are capable of and keep yourself in a growth mindset and keep learning. Stephen Maribor said that when your mindset changes, everything changes along with it. Arnold Schwarzenegger said, "The mind is the limit. As long as the mind can envision the fact that you can do something, you can do it. As long as you yourself really believe it 100%. So, mindset of the state of our mind of every individual, myself, personalities, governments, influencers, is needed to change our belief system. So our belief systems dictates how we operate, perform, behave, relate, become, and even lead and manage others. How we perceive ourselves and others, and how we treat ourselves and others, and how we respect them. How we also manage the resources available to us, even our faith in God, our time, our emotions, and even our self-worth. So on this occasion, allow me to welcome our first speaker of the day, my dear friend, Dr. Luis Cardoso from Portugal. And he will be unveiling to us how to improve communication in relationship, which is very, very important, because communication is the key. But then, let me quickly share with you who Dr. Luis Cardoso is. Dr. Luis Miguel Cardoso from Portugal, Dean of Education of School of Education and Social Science of the Polytechnic Institute of Portugal, Deputy Director of Masters in Media and Society. But that is not enough. He holds a PhD in Modern Languages and Literatures in the specialty of Comparative Literature from the Faculty of Letters of University of Columbia, Portugal. He was Dean of the School of Education and Social Sciences of the Polytechnic Institution of Portugal, between 2010 and 2018, and then Deputy Director of the Masters in Media and Society. He was President of YYCI, Association of Reflection and Intervention in the Educational Policy of Higher Education School in Portugal. Adjunct Professor at the Department of Language and Communication Sciences at the School of Education and Social Sciences of the Polytechnic Institute of Portugal. Is a professor of higher education since 1995. He's a researcher at the Center for Comparative Study at the University of Lisbon. Dr. Luis Cardoso was the coordinator of Communication Bureau of the Polytechnic Institute of Portugal. His aim area of teaching and research are science of language and communication. And that is why my friend consistently for the past 2 years has been coming around to teach us more in depth about communication. He's also literacy, education, higher education, and social responsibility, and literature and cinema, under which published articles and books chapters and made presentations in Portugal and several countries, including Brazil, Spain, France, United Kingdom, Italy, Greece, Hungary, Bulgaria, Thailand, Turkey, Colombia, Ukraine, Philippines, Indonesia, United Arab Emirates, Australia, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Mozambique, Luxembourg, China, and India. Wow, wow, wow. My professor, Dr. Lois, is really traveling all over the world. I believe sometimes we will bring him to Africa as well, so that he can... Yes, in 2016, he published the book Literature and Cinema, The Look of Janus Virgilio Ferreira, and the Space of Unspeakable by Edition 70, Portugal. Is a member of several international organizations and associate, as well as a member of the editorial board of international journal in area of language and communication, science, comparative literature, literature and cinema, and literacy and education. So, my dear friend is about to unleash, or let's say unfold, more information about how can we improve our communication in relationship. And also we are blessed and privileged as Y.Y.C.I International, UK and worldwide, to have our president from Portugal presented to us this morning. You are welcome, sir.
So good morning again, my dear friend, Professor Dr. Queen Elizabeth Lucas. It's always a great pleasure to be here with you. It's always a great pleasure to collaborate with Y.Y.C.I International. It's always a great honor to be here. Thank you so much for your very kind words. Thank you so much for your very kind presentation. And I'm sure we'll have here a path, a journey regarding communication and information, can highlight some key ideas for us to understand these two concepts and to try to connect them, not just regarding our daily lives, but also what we are doing at work, what we are doing in our communities, what we are doing in the public sector, in the private sector, in the labor market. What we have to understand it is important for our graduate students and of course for all colleagues. So I would also like to say hello and good morning, good afternoon to all the esteemed participants here at YYCI International. And so let's begin our journey. Let's begin our avenues regarding information and communication. So I would like to share a presentation.
Yes, you can.
Thank you. Thank you, my dear friend. Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth Lucas.
You're welcome. My dear friend, Dr. Lewis. How do I pronounce that again? Because I know there's no ho. Is it Louis?
Oh, Louis is fine.
Okay.
Just like in English, Louis is fine.
Okay, that's fine.
No, thank you so much for your kindness. Thank you. Thank you. So, my dear friends, esteemed colleagues, why is communication so important in our relationships? Whether we are analyzing our relationships, namely when we connect relationships with our family, with our friends, with our colleagues, with our students, with our community, because communication is the basis for our societies. Communication is a framework that can help us create bonds. Communication is a possibility to understand differences and to create paths of tolerance, to understand how we are all different, but we are all connected in this world. So communication, first of all, has to be understood as a very challenging concept. And many times we have two words, information and communication, that are often used as synonyms. But indeed, they signify quite different things. So according to Sidney J. Harris, information is giving out and communication is getting through. So many times we think we are communicating, but indeed we are only sharing information. And many times we are trying to communicate, and to communicate is to get through our information. But even if we try very hard, we cannot create the bond. We cannot create the connection with the person that is listening to us. And why? Well, because communication is a very complex concept, a very complex framework, and it gives us a lot of opportunities to understand how context is truly important. So what is communication, my friends? So we can define communication as the process of passing information, sending information, and understanding, receiving the same information from one person to another through verbal and non-verbal means. And this is very important because many times non-verbal communication is even more powerful than verbal communication. So my dear friends, if we analyze this infographic here, we have the sender, we have the message, we have the receiver, and then we have a very important keyword here, that is interpretation. And why is interpretation so important? Well, first of all, because our sender can create a message and can truly believe that this message was indeed carefully thought, prepared, and sent to the receiver. But many times, this message is not fully understood because we have problems regarding the sender, we can have problems regarding the message, and we can have problems regarding the receiver. And when we think about the receiver, we also think about the many interpretations that the receiver may have regarding the same message. So this is why George Bernard Shaw gave us this extraordinary quote. The single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place. So for us senders, we truly believe that we are creating communication, but many times it is not received or it is not well understood. So we didn't create communication, we only shared the information. The information was not received, was not decoded, was not understood. So to overcome the abyss between the sender and the receiver, when we are communicating, we also have to think about the elements of the communication process. So let us begin by saying that the sender has a huge responsibility, of course, because he or she is creating the message. And when creating the message, first, it has to decide what type of code it will be using. Because if the sender chooses a type of code that will not be understood by the receiver, then we will not have communication at all. And even when the code is correct, even when the code is used in a proper way, in a correct way, many times, this process is affected by noise, and different types of noise can affect the process of coding the message, encoding the information that is being sent by the sender. So when the message is created, then we have to select media. And each medium, of course, has its own characteristics. Many times we think that one medium is adequate to send our information, and it is adequate for our receiver to get it. But unfortunately, it's not, because many times the medium that we chose will not be the most important, the most effective, the most coherent. And then the process of decoding by the receiver will not be fully made. So as we can see, my dear friends, esteemed colleagues, we have here the elements of the communication process that are very simple, but we have here a lot of possibilities of failure regarding the sender, regarding the message, the encoding process, the noise, the media, the decoding process, and the receiver. And of course, we cannot forget a very important keyword, that is feedback. Because if we only have a message that has been created by the sender and received by the receiver, so this is a one flow communication process. And we need a two-way communication process. This means we need the message to be sent by the sender, received by the receiver, and then we have feedback. So the receiver has to give feedback to the sender. Otherwise, we won't have communication. We'll only have information that is shared from the sender to the receiver. So when we have sender, receiver, and feedback, then the process is complete. So this means, my dear friends, that communication, it's not just an art, but also requires skills. it's also something that demands from us a lot of work. So communication works for those who work at it. And when we say communication works, this also means that communication has to be connected with a lot of important key questions, namely, what are we communicating? Where are we communicating from, and where is the communication going? When are we communicating? Who is the sender? Who is the receiver? Why are we communicating? What's your message? What are we trying to convey? What are we trying to share? What are we trying to create? And how are we going to create our communication? So what will be our medium, for example? How will we encode the message? So this means that communication demands from us the right answers regarding these key questions. So why is communication indeed many times a factor that is portraying difficulties all around us and difficulties regarding our connections with our friends, with our families, with our colleagues at work? Well, because many times words are not enough. This means that nonverbal communication has a high power. Let us focus on this number. 93% of communication is nonverbal. So everything counts, my friends, in communication. The way we look, the way we speak, the tone of our voice, if we are making gestures or not, if we are using our hands, our eyes, if we are nodding or not, if we are accepting the feedback or if you're not accepting the feedback, everything counts. And namely, eye contact is so important because you can have an excellent communication, but without eye contact, your message will not be well received. So this means, and according to the previous slide, that we have to work a lot to have effective communication. And nowadays, namely, not just in our families, but of course, in regard to our colleagues at work, what's the most important skill you need to have? And the most important skill is, of course, communication skill, namely communication skills, plural. So according to this survey, more than 50% replied that communication skills are vital to have success at your job on a day-to-day basis. And of course, more than 50% said communication skills, 90% said objective prioritizing skills, 14% people management skills, and so on and so on. So this requires from us a lot of attention when we are creating communication. And why is so? Well, because, and we are talking about relationships, a good relationship starts with good communication. So if we have good communication, we will avoid problems, we will avoid noise, we will avoid disturbance, we will avoid misunderstandings. So good communication is a key factor to build a good relationship. And how to create a good relationship? Well, my friends, we have to improve our communication skills. Just like we have to improve our skills when we are studying, when we are trying to know more about the concept, when we are, for example, engaged with a degree, with a course. Well, communication always demands from us more and more dedication and commitment. So, 5 questions to improve your communication skills. Number 1, what are the best channels to use to get information across? So that's very important because you have a very important communication, but you have to select the channel that is adequate to have an effective communication. Then, are you communicating in a clear, open, passionate, and humble way? So these are characteristics that are very, very important. So it's not just about the information you're sharing, it's about the way you are addressing information. What's your approach regarding information? Is your information clear? Is it open? Are you communicating with passion? And are you communicating in a humble way? Number 3, how does the way you communicate make those around you feel? So what's the effect of your communication? What's the effect of your words? What's the effect of everything that you prepared to get your message through? And number 4, are you being human? I know today many colleagues, many friends are now debating if the use, for example, of ICT solutions, if the use of AI solutions, for example, is affecting the way we are communicating. And indeed, it is affecting, it is changing the way we are communicating. But we still use a lot of ICT tools, but we never forget that we are human. So this means that information and emotions are always connected, my friends. And of course, if someone communicated to you in the same way you are communicating to others, what impact would it have? Again, the importance of feedback, my friends, the importance of feedback. So when we connect these 5 questions, then we think that many, many times we create a very important message, but the message cannot get to our destination, to our audience, to our public. Why? Because we have barriers. And even the most effective communication has barriers. For example, at work, we can have organizational barriers, we can have cultural barriers, language barriers, channel barriers, interpersonal, individual, attitudinal, listening barriers, and even barriers while speaking. So we have here a lot of challenges, and many times these challenges are problems. So when we are creating, when we are beginning, we are starting communication process, we also have to think how to overcome these barriers. So the more we try to create a communication that is clear, that is effective, the more we are acting to overcome these barriers. So the main focus now is, can we use some strategies to overcome these barriers? Yes, indeed, we can use. We can use a lot of solutions, a lot of possibilities to make our communication effective. For example, make your ideas clear before communicating. Ensure the time of your communication is good. Use a language your receiver can understand. Make your message to the point and short. And checking if the other person has understood your message, of course, is vital. Take care of your body language, tone, and content of the message. Listen before you speak again, and listening is so important. Do not interrupt when someone else is speaking. Respect is also very important. And make your message judgment free. So let us not have prejudice and biases here when we are creating our message. Let us have a tolerant approach, a respectful approach regarding communication. So all these possibilities regarding the overcome of barriers allow us to manage communication and allow us to create a strong identity regarding communication. For example, we have to identify the communication barriers we are facing. Of course, it all depends on our context. And once you do it, it will be easier to tackle them. So we have to study our context. We have to analyze our context. We have to predict if our context will be helping us or creating difficulties. Then we have to learn about different cultural norms and customs, as well as cultural differences in terms of verbal and non-verbal language use. Because when we don't fully understand the differences, many times we can create misunderstandings or even serious problems, because one word or one gesture, one non-verbal action can truly create a problem in our communication, even when we think that that non-verbal language, for us, it's not a problem, but it can be a problem for the audience. And we always have to think about the audience, not just about us, the senders, but first of all, how is our audience going to receive the message? So once we do this, we will decrease the chances of misunderstandings and confusion. Then we have to identify our assumptions, our stereotypes. Many times, biases and prejudices can affect our communication. So when we think about all this, I'm sure we will overcome a lot of barriers. And we also have to pick an appropriate official team language, namely when we have, for example, an international team, when we are creating a network with colleagues, with friends, researchers from different countries who have different approaches regarding language and culture, of course. So we have to understand that the use of one common language can eliminate a lot of barriers and can be an effective way to put aside cultural barriers. So barriers, if we try to summarize all this, barriers are, of course, always present, even if we try very hard to overcome them. So imagine, for example, the person on your right. She's doing a huge effort to get the message through. But even if she tries very hard, she will not accomplish this. Why? Because, well, there's a wall there. And she cannot bring the wall down. So if we can destroy the wall, then we have to be creative. We have to, for example, choose another channel. We have to create a communication example with other characteristics, for example. We have to try to overcome space and time barriers. So it's not just shouting out loud that will be giving us the right answer to overcome this abyss. I usually show this interesting and sometimes funny example to illustrate how a simple use of an emoji can create a lot of different reactions. And imagine this. We are sending the same emoji, but we are using different smartphones. We are using different platforms. So the same emoji, this means the same expression, the same emotion, if we are using different platforms, then the same emotion will be transformed into different emojis. And of course, it will be decoded in different ways by our audience. And it's the same emotion. So for us, it's not a problem. But indeed, it is a problem for the receiver. It is a problem for the audience. So same emotion, but we are using different channels, and the channel is affecting our message. The channel is corrupting our message, and it's not our fault, but we have to think, are we using the correct channel? Am I using the correct channel? So it's not just about the importance of the message. It's also about the importance of the platform. It's also about the importance of the technological devices we are using. So other key questions make us think about perceptions. And for us, our message can be very clear, but when we send that message, the message no longer belongs to us. It belongs to our sender, receiver, complex partnership, and complex interpretation and decoding process. So, for example, on your left, what are you now seeing? Are you seeing two human faces, or is just a face? On your right, are you discovering a tree, or are you discovering two faces? Well, it depends on your perception. For me, for example, I can see two faces and I can talk about these two faces, but for the receiver, it's something different. So what is clear for me may not be clear for the receiver. What is clear for me may not be clear for the audience. So communication many times is shattered, is divided, and creates conflicts, even when we are defining a very good message, even when we are using the proper tools, even when we are using the proper channels. So this is about misinterpretations, but of course, this is also about contexts, and this is about the way the audience is perceiving communication that we are creating. So the essence of good listening is very important. The essence of good listening is empathy. And this can be achieved only by suspending our preoccupation with ourselves and entering into the experience of another person. Part intuition and part effort, it's the stuff of human connection. This from Michael Nichols. So on your right, there's a very good example of communication, of sharing, of creating a bond, creating a connection between these two trees or these two persons that are sharing information, that are sharing the birds from one tree to the other and coming back and returning with feedback. So this is a very interesting symbol regarding communication. But then the biggest communication problem is we do not listen to understand, we listen to reply. And when we are listening only to reply, this is just a mechanical effort. So it's not creating communication, it's just having a mechanical answer. And this is not communication. So this means we have to work on our communication skills. We have to enhance our communication skills. Namely, when you think about accurate information giving, about personalization, empathy, and mirroring, using professional language, namely when we are connecting with colleagues, effective listening, not just listening, but effective listening, persuasion, and positive body language. Again, this is so important, my dear friends. So these key effective communication skills can be, let us say, summarized and connected with one single question. Who is our listener? This defines the way we are creating and defining the characteristics of our message. So this is why we have to think about the presentation skills regarding the context, of course, when you are sharing information. We have to use compassion. We have to be cultural aware of possibilities of misunderstanding. We have to create personal connections with the audience. We have to establish trust. We have to use verbal and non-verbal communication. Again, active listening, written communication, and written communication, even when we are creating a very objective text, for example, many times we can use words that are very simple to us and very difficult to understand for our listener, for our reader, for example. So we have always to think about who is our listener, who is our reader. So we have to work a lot, my friends. And we have a lot of work to be done regarding the communication skills. We already highlighted active listening, and of course, all the methods regarding communication, friendliness, confidence, sharing feedback, volume, clarity, empathy, respect, responsiveness. These are all very important top communication skills. And why? Because communication skills are useful in our daily lives, again, with our friends, with our families, but of course at work. And at work, we connect communication skills with influencing skills, with cross-cultural communication, creating a win-win situation when we are addressing the communication process, when we are using skills to enhance our possibilities of success regarding communication, when we are working as a team. All these presentation skills, all these skills will be valuable, for example, to have an effective negotiation. So we need communication skills, again, with everyone. We need communication skills at work, and to have great communication skills, we have to think that communication is a skill that you can learn. So it's like riding a bicycle or typing. If you're willing to work at, you can rapidly improve the quality of every part of your life, according to Brian Tracy. So communication is important in our company, is important to create ties, community ties, opportunities to influence productivity in problem solving, improved financial results, warning of potential problems, to have better decision making, to have persuasive marketing messages, to have better employee engagement and satisfaction and lower employee turnover. So these are very important aspects to demonstrate how communication is vital in our company, in our organization, either if belongs to the private sector or public sector. It's the same. And communication skills are consistently being one of the top skills employers are looking for. So here you can see the top 5 skills employers are looking for. And the number 1 is communication. Second, college degree. Then time management, teamwork, and so on. But the number 1 is communication. Why? Because this is the basis. This is the basis to have success in our daily lives at work. So I think we can agree about the benefits of effective communication. So it's easier and better problem-solving solution. The benefits of effective communication, of course, help us to have a better decision-making opportunity, for example. Good communication ensures decision makers to have the information that is necessary to make the decision with the best possible outcomes. Better business relationships. So the success of your collaboration with third parties truly depends on effective communication. And a recent global survey on employee voice has shown that 92% of highly engaged employees also feel heard, as opposed to only 30% of the disengaged. And this also improving productivity and, of course, creating new opportunities to have better team culture. So 5 ways to boost communication, and most important, to boost digital communication. Because nowadays, in this digital era, we also have to develop digital competencies. So share knowledge. People need to be able to actively share knowledge across the whole organization. This means that we have to pay attention regarding our channels. We have to pay attention regarding the way we are addressing productivity with internal and external communication. Encourage disagreement. Help people have honest discussions and introduce healthy levels of disagreement in order to solve problems, in order to discuss the better solution. Facilitate innovation. Internal communication enables employees to brainstorm with each other, and it's very important to have dialogue. Engage employees. One simple way to improve employee engagement is to initiate employee advocacy. And focus on problem solving. Good communication culture nurtures a problem-solving mentality. So let us try to summarize this path by saying that 96% of business leaders agree that effective communication is essential for delivering the business results expected of their team for the coming year, for example. 85% of employees highlight the need to have regularly updates regarding company news. This means that companies need to establish effective communication strategies. And 70% of corporate errors are due to poor communication, according to research. So common outcomes of effective communication are, of course, increased productivity, increased work satisfaction, increased customer satisfaction, improved relationships with colleagues, increase employee confidence, and increase productivity. Allow me to highlight that we have here regarding business leaders 72% about increased productivity. About the knowledge workers, more than 56% increased work satisfaction. So to make our communication more effective, we need to shift from what information do I need to convey to what questions do I want my audience to ask. And this is a very important shift, my friends. And also a very important quote from Peter Drucker. The most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said. So it's not just about we are saying, it's about the way we are saying, it's about the context, it's about everything that is around the communication process. So, my dear friends, thank you so much for being here today with the Yes You Can International and Professor Dr. Elizabeth Lucas. And thank you for being with me in this journey regarding communication. To have a very good communication, an effective communication is indeed an avenue regarding our common future possibilities of creating understanding and creating better relationships with our friends, with our families, and at work. Thank you so much, my friends.
Wow. Very important we started this program early so that we can learn better, especially on how to communicate effectively. And my friend from Portugal, Dr. Luis Cardoso, has really started this morning with this very, very important information for us to improve our communication skills. If you have missed it, because I know it's so early in the morning, especially on Saturday here in UK, and I believe that other people will be joining the video later. So I will encourage you to keep sending your questions so that we can answer all your questions, and also to get better understanding, because communication is very important in building your relationship either in a corporate world, professionally, or even in your family, within your family, your neighborhood, your society, and even with your spouse and even children. So that is how important it is. Imagine relating with somebody. I mean, let's take husband and wife, for example. You are relating with you are relating with one another, you are in the same house, and you are not communicating. Oh, wow. Another thing that also that I derive from your teachings this morning is that we have to be mindful of our audience. We have to be mindful, for example, in a marital home, you have to be mindful of your spouse or your children, and even in your family. What you want to put across, you want them to hear it and hear it with better understanding. So you have to know the right language, you have to know the right time, you have to know the right system to use, and you also have to know how to present it. Because sometimes they say actions speak louder than voice. So when you are speaking, you are also building trust. So if you want people to trust you, then you have to be mindful of how you are communicating with them, which is very important. I welcome Professor Dr. TPS. Thank you for joining us this morning. My mentor from India. Oh, yes. So I want to appreciate you, sir, for this very important topic that you have dealt with us. I've been noticing for the past 2 years, you are so consistent because you know what you know. And that is communication. And the reason why, yes, you can keep inviting you to come because we don't know it all. We need to get better and better and better in our communication. And communication, you need communication skills, you need it for everything, even in business world, even in classrooms, even in education, even in family, among your friends, because there's different kinds of communication. The way I will communicate with Dr. Lewis will be different from the way I will communicate with my children. The way I communicate with my family will definitely be difficult. Will be different from the way I communicate with my business partners. So we have to know the right skills and the way we address the audience as well. Like you said, audience are different. And for example, I'm a youth mentor. So the way I want to address the youth will be different from the way I want to address the king, the royal, because I am in between the kings and the religious leaders and the professors like Professor TPS. I'm in between every one of them. And still, the language will be different. So that is how important it is. Imagine me talking to a toddler, like I'm talking to a grown-up person. They'll just, it doesn't make sense. And if people don't understand what you are sharing, it's like of wasting time. So that's why we have to know the right words, the right motion, the right time, and also the right language. And I really appreciate that. And also, you said that we also need to communicate with respect. And I think that is very important. If you're talking to me and you don't have respect, I can't listen to you. So you have to respect your audience. You have to give them the opportunity for them to connect with you through your communication. Because to me, communication is like a spirit. It's like you connecting. It's like a magnet. What makes Dr. Lewis from Portugal to be on this platform is communication. Because if I cannot communicate with you, you cannot understand me, you won't be here. I know we all have a common language of English and maybe other languages, but it's more than just language like that. It's how you present it, the simple English or the simple language, the way you present yourself as well. Because when you are listening to me, for example, you are also looking at me. Who is talking to me? How is he presenting? How is he even in respecting me? So we all deserve respect. Another thing is sometimes, like you said, listening skills is very important. And then you said it that listen to understand, not listen to respond. And I think we all are guilty of that. Because we are so ace, come on, finish what you want to say. I want to say my own. It doesn't make sense. We learn from one another. So if you are not listening to understand, then that means you've wasted all your time in a masterclass or even with communication. So you have to understand what you are listening to. Just the same thing in the class, in the education sector. If the lecturer is teaching you and you are not paying attentive, or your teacher is teaching you, you are not paying attentive, I'm sure if any other person asks you, what have you learned? You'll be like, they say a lot. Say a lot doesn't make sense. What have you learned personally? Because what you've learned from what has been said is what you can apply to your life. That is what is going to bring change and transformation. Oh, there's so many speakers there. Yes, we know. But what is your intake? And the only way for you to take out of the teaching is when you understand what is being said. Am I right, sir? Because I'm just recapping what you are sharing. Because I know some,
Absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely. It's a perfect summary, Professor Dr. Queen Elizabeth Lucas. You have highlighted the most important ideas of this presentation. And indeed, I'm so grateful to be here. And again, well, you said it all, my dear friend. Yes, you said it all. Communication is all about the use of our emotions and the use of our main key elements that define our humanity, like respect, like confidence, like tolerance, like understanding that the audience is plural, is heterogeneous, is different. And we have, of course, one message that we have to convey, we need to convey, we want to convey, but it can be understood in different ways regarding context, regarding cultural differences, regarding language differences. So allow me to say that is the sender who is indeed very important, but receiver is even more important than the sender. And we have to understand that many times we are creating a message that for us is simple, for us is effective and clear, but it's not effective and it's not clear for our audience. So indeed, we have to think about our audience when we are presenting, because our audience deserves to get the proper information without biases or prejudice or misunderstandings. So thank you so much, my dear friend,
yeah,
Dr. Queen Elizabeth Lucas. Thank you.
thank you so much, my friend, Dr. Lewis. I have a question quickly before you leave. The question is, yes, we've been talking about building ourselves up on communication skills. I mean, how can we improve communicating with a difficult person? I mean, difficult in a way that not really character, well, it could be character, but maybe they're struggling to understand because they might be their own disability. So that is one side, or somebody is just being difficult to listen or to get the message. So it's in two ways. It's one way that it's not the person's fault. It could be his disability that I'm struggling to understand, because I was also in that part of, I was in that situation before. I found it difficult when I was growing up to understand. I have to start doing some trainings and building myself up. But some people, they are difficult to communicate and you need to pass your message on to them. So it's in two ways. I want you to answer that before you go.
It's a very interesting question, my friend, but also a very complex question. I would like to say that, again, connecting this answer with the previous elements that we were sharing, we have to know a lot about our audience. So who is our audience? Who is our listener? What are the characteristics of our listener? What is their cultural context, for example? Do we have the same bonds regarding language and culture? Because, for example, when we belong to different countries, we have different habits, different customs, different traditions. And many times, a tradition in my country can be fully understood by my friends, my family, my colleagues in my country, but can be understood in a different way, in a different country with other values that uses different symbology, different metaphors, different ways of appropriating language, for example. So we have to analyze context. Context is very important. And context is all about language, our heritage, our culture, our community, our country. And this is one of the most important things that we have to think to have tolerance and respect. And when without respect, we cannot communicate. It is impossible. And then we have a lot of other characteristics that can create difficulties and noise regarding our listener. Namely, when our listener, for example, is used to have one type of platform and we are using another type of platform. So sometimes the channel is not the right channel to be used between the one who is sending the message and the one who is receiving the message. Another problem, and I will use your own words, when we have a difficult audience, many times, our audience, for example, is distracted. Many times, our audience is not paying attention, even in our classrooms. Many times, we have to establish new strategies or different strategies at the same time to create this bond with our audience. For example, in our classroom, imagine we have 30, 40, 50 students, and we can connect with 20 in a way, we can connect with 20 in another way, you can connect with 10 with another way. Many times, we can use different strategies in order to have success. So we have to be flexible.
Yeah.
So I would like to highlight this very important word, that is flexibility. We have to be flexible in our communication. So again, respect, tolerance, understanding differences, to be flexible, and also to create innovative approaches regarding communication. So many times our students are demanding, for example, they don't want just a theoretical approach. They want a practical approach. They want a connection with the real world, for example. So we have to change the way we are teaching in order to change the way they are learning. So we have to adapt, and adaptability is another word that is very, very important nowadays. So tolerance, respect, context, adaptability, flexibility, these are all important elements that can avoid and can overcome a lot of difficulties regarding our communication process. But of course, this is a very complex matter, my friend, and I'm sure we can address these issues
Yes.
in the next event.
Section. Yes.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Because the more you unveil this lesson to us, the more questions will keep coming, and we need to understand more and more, because what we understand is what we apply to our lives. And we want to be, it's part of personal development, it's part of improving ourselves, it's part of moving to the next level and progressing. And also, it's also part of our performances, because if you can communicate well, then your performance will be okay. If you can communicate well, your services you are providing also will be wonderful. And if you also can apply it and communicate well, then even your productivity will also be excellent. So that is why we will keep learning on this communication, effective communication. Yes, we all communicate, but then we want to be more effective. It's just like we're saying that all of us are leaders. Yes, we can be leaders, but for us to develop our effective leadership, you have to keep learning. You have to keep gaining. You have to keep researching. And when you are learning, get a better understanding of what you are learning so that you can apply it into your life. So it's very, very important. I'm learning too. You can see my notes. My professor, mentor, he knows that me. That is why I keep bringing you, sir, Dr. Lewis, to this platform, because you are not only teaching the audience, you are teaching the queen. You are teaching me to improve myself, and I'm That's why I'm jotting so that I don't forget anything. And even if I forget, we are recording it and I don't want to learn alone. So that is why we have created this platform so that others also can learn. And the beauty part of it is that we're not charging anyone because we want many people to learn. We don't want, oh, I don't have the money to do that online course. I don't have the money to do this one, but we are making it free so that people can develop themselves. People can work effectively. They can communicate effectively. So, and that is why it's so important. And I really appreciate you because anytime we call upon you, you check your diary and then you say yes to us and then you honor our invitation. I really, really appreciate it from the depth of my heart. And we at Y.Y.C.I International and Y.Y.C.I International Academic really appreciate your time. And I want to say thank you so much. I don't know if Professor Tosendra, Dr. Samina, or even my mentor has any questions to ask. Do you have any question, Professor Tosendra?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. It was a very. Am I audible,
Yes, yes,
Your
yes, you are.
Excellency?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a very good question by you. How to handle the difficult communicators, and equally good was the answer given by Dr. Luis Cardoso. Congratulations and thank you very much, sir. I just wanted one more insight, if you can help me. What are the biggest bottlenecks in one-to-one communication, particularly cross-cultural communication? Because under the dynamic leadership of our queen, we are almost there in most of the countries. I, being the general secretary for India, sometimes my English accent is different, but I don't know how and why, whether it is her queen's generosity or her empathy or my craving to learn from her. I do not. I get every word from her crystal clear. So, what are the cross-cultural barriers which should be remembered while communicating, both verbal as well as non-verbal? Can you explain this with some example? I'll be very grateful.
Thank you. Thank you, esteemed colleague, for your very interesting question as well. Well, I would start by saying that sometimes it's not easy to overcome these barriers. So this is why I said that understanding differences is the key element. We all have differences, and it's not important that we have accents. That is not important, my friend. For example, I'm from Portugal. I have my English accent. You, my friend, from another country, you have a different accent. That is not important. We have the same language, and the most reliable factor that connects us is empathy.
Mm.
So we can have barriers. Yes, indeed, we can have barriers. But if we are using empathy, my friend, and
Yes.
many times empathy is just about, for example, smiling. It's all about saying, I'm here, I'm with you, I understand you. I
Mm.
want to create this bond. Let's overcome something that is not well understood. For example, you said the word I didn't understand. I will need you to repeat that word. Please, can you rephrase what you said before for us to go ahead and discuss further regarding this key idea, for example? Many times, eye contact, as I said before, is so important.
Yes.
Yes.
Imagine you are teaching, my friend, and you are talking to your students, and you don't have eye-to-eye contact.
Mm.
So you're not creating a relationship. We need
Yes.
Mhm.
this relationship.
Yes. Yes.
Communication is not just about the words we are saying. It's not just about the different characteristics of our culture that can create barriers. It's also about the way we are using emotions. It's also
Yes.
about the use of empathy. And many times our emotions and empathy overcome difficulties. This is so
Yeah.
important. So when we are enhancing our communication skills, it's not just about the way we are using the English language. Of course, it is important. Indeed, it is important. But we also have other tools to help us because we are humans. We are using our emotions. We are using a lot of connections to establish a good communication. And imagine this, we are using a platform, right? So we are creating here a meeting using the same platform, but from different continents, from different countries. And we are here connected. So it's not just about the differences, it's all about what is uniting us.
Yeah, that's very correct.
More important than the differences are the things that unite us. So the English language is uniting us, the desire to be connected is uniting us, our smiles are uniting us, our
Yes.
eye contact is uniting us. So we won't have any barriers here. This
Thank you.
happens even when we are speaking with our friends, with our colleagues, with our students, with our community leaders. It's not just about the techniques, it's also about being human. And
Yeah.
this is the main factor.
Oh, that's wonderful answer, sir. You again, thank you very much for
Thank you
this
so much.
comprehensive answer. Thank you, sir. And probably that's why I'm able to understand every bit of word spoken by my Excellency Queen, because the craving to understand and listen is more. I may sometime it is difficult to understand some other people's, but it is my own ability and craving to understand my Queen, and in fact today to you also. So this is the empathy factor which comes into role. Thank you very much for elaborating it. Thank you,
Thank
Her
you.
Excellency Queen
Thank
Ma'am,
you,
for
sir.
allowing me to ask questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I want to quickly say thank you for joining us again, Professor Tendra. Thank you so much. And Dr. Samina, thank you so much for joining us on the Zoom. Thank you so much. Dr. TPS, thank you so much for your relaxing, patient. I like the background. I like the shirt. No, I'm not putting on a red one today. But my friend, Dr. Lewis, is putting on the red tie. So it's combination. Dr. Tiffy, Dr. Samina is putting on red, something like that, and the professor, you're putting on, yeah. So we are all together, corporate. Sorry, I just have to add that to it. You know, sometimes, yes, it's a class, we are learning, but at the same time, we also need to, relax a bit. Dr. Sabina, do you have
Yeah,
question quickly before Doctor? I know
yeah.
that
I
today
want
we are
to.
expanding, but it's good
Yeah,
to get the understanding through our questions before Professor Dr. Lois leave us. Okay, Dr. Samina.
yeah. Um, I will elaborate it that our smile, our body language is also a part of communication, because action is sometimes response more than words. Sometimes our actions, our body language, our eye contact, our smile, it gives better meaning than the words. Sometimes communicate it. So it is very important in body language is very important part of the communication. Our accent, sometimes we uh, share the word when we use the word in a polite way, it means a different. And when we again it's in an angry way or something, the meaning change because of our accent, our body language, our smile, and it makes difference. So uh, it is very better for us uh, to learn about the communication, because communication is and our style is a wonderful thing which made relationships stronger. Communication with body language, with smile, with our attitude, behavior. These are all the parts of the communication. So
Yeah.
thank you very much. I appreciate the beautiful and wonderful, informative presentation of Dr. Lewis. And I thank you. I appreciate. Wow,
Thank
it
you,
is
ma'am.
very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Wow, wow,
And
wow.
our trust, our tolerance, flexibility, and the family and friend, and we have to also put our stress on these sides also in the communication. Then,
Yes.
if we are in the strange culture and we have to adopt their customs, their traditions, and move according to their customs and their environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow, 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 wow. I know we take a long time today, but I believe that we've gained more better understanding of what effective communication is all about. And I believe with this better understanding, we'll be able to apply it. And then the next time we're going to talk about effective communication, Dr. Lewis will come with advanced level or any other places that still need to be touched, and we'll be ready for more questions. So on this note, on behalf of Y.Y.C.I International and Y.Y.C.I International Academy, we want to say thank you so much. And thank you for being our president in Portugal. Thank you so much for creating time for us and coming to share very important topic so that we all can get better in our performance activities and even our relating to others. So I want to say thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Okay.